We had several comments regarding the city's finances, so it's great that we're leading into that as our next question. So we'd like to know what your point of view is on the city's finances, and also what plans you would have on the economic development of the city to improve its finances.
You know, I'm not in the city council, so I don't know what goes behind closed doors. Like Mr. Barajas and Mr. Mobilari are more aware of what's really happening in the city. I just know what people like yourselves hear out of the streets and talking to your neighbor and articles you see, read on the newspaper. That's where I get my education as far as what the city has in debt, in bonds. I don't know the numbers. I know we owe a lot. I know we pay a lot of money to the lawyers because we have a lot of lawsuits. I don't know what the lawsuits are for. When they present them in the meetings, they just tell you a possible lawsuit coming. At the last meeting, we had like six lawyers were sitting there. So it might be 6 people that are coming for 6 different things. But we as a citizen, we never find out what the things are. So in that case, I don't know what to do about things like that. On the bonds, we borrow money to do the Taylor Ranch, the building, and now they use it to cap a well. Well, what good is it going to do if the state has the land now and we already kept a well for them? Why should we, from the people from Montebello, pay for that? And I have a lot of concerns like that. When I don't have all the facts, I cannot make decisions because what for? I'll be basing decisions on things I don't know.
In terms of economic development,
Disadvantage to their advantage, they know all the concerns that go into one item.
right, and then suggestions or ideas you would have for the economic development, so if you're going to improve the economy of the city of Montebello.
Well, once again, the facts is how much we owe and how much money we have and how much money we can move. I know how to move money. I was a financial technician. I have played the stock markets and see if hadn't existed. So, and I haven't gone broke, so.
Thank you. When you speak, people listen. Bill.
We sort of got off track there. Could you repeat the question?
From your point of view, Bill, what is your view on the city's economic or financial condition, and what would be your plans for the economic development of the city?
First, I think it's important because it's been mentioned several times of all the negative rhetoric about all the inappropriate activity, illegal activity by our department heads, council members, etc. When you cut through all of that and get down to what's happened with the economy, not only in Montebello, but in this whole country and worldwide, is a 6-year recession. Revenues dropped substantially. Montebello was fortunate. We had the second highest sales tax base of any city of our size in this area except Cerritos. It peaked at $12.6 million in 2007. It dropped to $8.45 million in 2008, 2009. Not because we lost business, simply because people lost their jobs, they didn't have money to spend. Consumer spending drives the economy in this country, 75 to 80% of it. We came in 3 years ago, right after Mr. Barajas and Mr. Gomez were elected. The city had a $4 million deficit, and the situation was not looking good because the economy was continuing to deteriorate. By bringing in some very competent staff members, our finance director was now our city administrator, Francesca Schuyler, Larry Cosmont, who was a very competent financial advisor, not only from Montebello, but 26 other cities. We turned this city around, as Mr. Barajas mentioned earlier, from a $4 million deficit to a balanced budget with a $2 million reserve. And in the last 2 years, we have been able to maintain that balanced budget and continue to build our reserves, which are now over $3 million, and they're continuing to build. And fortunately, because We have an active oil field in the city with oil going over $100 a barrel. Even though it hurts at the pump, it also helps very much at the city's bottom line to get very substantial revenue from that. Second, we have 2 car dealerships in the city, Ford and Chevrolet, that are doing extremely well. They're helping very substantially to improve our economic base. But it comes down to, again, economic development, bringing new business into the city. And we have the opportunity to do that. But in order to be attractive to business, we have to have a business-friendly environment. I sometimes feel like the minister preaching to the natives when I tell our staff, if 25% of your revenue comes from sales tax and another 25% comes from business revenues, then obviously that's what drives the engine, and that's who you need to be very sensitive to their needs. Business does not want to go through a lot of red tape, a lot of bureaucracy. We have to streamline the process for permit applications, for business applications, for plan checks, and get things started very quickly. And we're doing better on that. Our staff is getting the idea. We're working toward even being more efficient in that area. Secondly, we have to do a better job of marketing our product. Montebello has more assets going for it than any other city our size in this area. A location that's second to none, bracketed by freeways, and that's why every business literally that's come here has exceeded their expectations, because we are in a very excellent marketing area. We have a police and fire department that are second to none in the area, and that's as important to business as it is to those of us residents, because they want a safe area for their investment, they want a safe environment for their employees and for their customers, and if there is a problem, they want a fast and professional response, and we provide that. We have a number of other assets, a regional shopping center that's one of the top, not in size, but in dollars per square foot, that's doing extremely well. We have a championship golf course in our city. It's a signature facility for our city. We have the 3rd largest municipal bus line in LA County. It's been named the top municipal bus line in the state of the United States twice. So we have all of these things going for us, but like anything else, if you don't market your product, if you don't, no matter how good it is, if you don't let people know, as they say, if you have the light, just put a blanket over it, nobody's going to, it's not going to illuminate everything. In order to address that issue, one of the things I did do, and you've probably seen recently, is begin advertising on Montebello city buses. Former Councilman Alberto Perez and I redid the graphics on the buses, which are very attractive and room for advertising. Our buses travel from Long Beach to Pasadena, from Orange County to downtown LA. Now local businesses are able to advertise at a very, very reasonable rate to not only bring new customers in, but also to encourage new business to come into our city. We put just recently, you've probably seen a new LED signboard on the 60 freeway, which has been very effective in enhancing the revenue at our Quiet Canyon facility, golf course, and hotel complex. But we need to do more in that area to get the message out that Montebello is a great place to do business. It is still one of the top cities in the area in terms of economic base, and we need to continue to work towards improving that. So those are the issues that need to be addressed, because if we're going to take advantage of the opportunities, every other city wants the same thing that we do, we are going to have to be just as aggressive as they are going after it. And there are, as I say, with a strong business background and understanding of business, both in retail, construction, property management, I understand how to get that job done and what it's going to take to do it. And we're moving in very aggressively in a number of areas that time doesn't permit me to get into, but you will start to see some very effective market and other plans to continue to enhance our city's economic base and the attractiveness for business to locate here.
Thank you. All right, you touched on the negative impression, so I would say you probably differ with the negative impression of the finance of the city. So your point of view, and also what your plan would be for economic development in the city.
Sure. Well, to touch a little bit on what I talked about before, the city's economic development depends on several key factors. The first one is rebuilding the city's image with the businesses and the development community. One of the, as we mentioned earlier, the city of Montebello has very negative image out there, especially with businesses and the developers. One of the things that I certainly would like to do, that I've tried to continue to do, is to start moving the city forward, leave the past in the past. Audits, nothing found. You can go back and look at as many audits as you want. At the end of the day, Montebello needs to start moving forward. One of the other things that I like to do here in the city is that Montebello has the economic demographics to bring the most well-known restaurants and businesses, which focuses on the city financially, what can make us a much better place. However, we also need to, as a city council and as a city, we need to be much more business friendly by helping these businesses and relax some of the ordinances and streamline the way they bring their business into our community. So that's one of the ways that we can do that, but definitely, certainly, one of the ways to help our city and the economy here in the city is to bring in businesses, and at the same time, we need to bring in the people that are going to spend the money along with the ones that we already have here. So thank you.
It's been so long, I almost forgot the question too, but as far as my view, I agree that we do have to stop the misinformation that's being published, especially through this election period. It's not helping our situation. It's not enticing to people. They don't want to come into a community if the credit rating is low, when they feel like there's a lot of division in the city council like we do have currently, when people are bringing their personal issues in a public forum. I think that needs to stop. It's unbearable. It's awkward. It's not the right place or the time, and I've seen it, and it disgusts me. So I think that needs to stop. As far as my plans, I think we need to encourage people with vacant storefronts to develop their property or to try to sell it. Try to get them, to get rid of it. We have a lot of vacancies. I think we also need to review the process our city has in helping the businesses that are starting up in our community, like Ketchup, support them. Hopefully they have good food. And also, I think we need to put more pressure on Caltrans. The gateways to our community are a mess. The concrete slabs, you drive from, even between Wilcox and San Gabriel Boulevard, it's completely broken, uneven pavement. The landscape is an eyesore. I think we need to work better and closer with Monterey Park and have them clean up that disastrous, area with the green tubing pipes that come down along the freeway, because people see you're entering Montebello, and that's what you see, and it's an eyesore. It's the gateway to our city. I mean, it's the entry to the shops at Montebello. Nobody is reaching out to Caltrans and saying, clean this up, clean the freeway up, do brush clearance, maybe put some vines or hide the ugly tubing. I mean, I drive by there and I'm disgusted. I look at it and I go, this is ugly. I mean, before we had a dump, it stunk. Now we've got that taken care of, but now we have to deal with the look, and the aesthetics are very important. I mean, I don't know how many commuters are on the 60 freeway, but since the 1960s, I know it's grown exponentially, and we need to look at those gateways. Residents need to, be cleaning up the front of their yards, and when we have dilapidated roofs and structures, that if we don't have a code enforcement, I think we have 2 people, maybe 1 person there, and they've got to monitor the city, and these, owners are negligent with their properties. I think we need to look at that. I think there's a lot of work to be done. It's going to be a challenge. It's not going to happen overnight. I'm not going to paint a pretty picture, because I've been here my whole life, and I know what it used to look like, and I see what it's become. And I think with some unity on the council, and without all the misleading of the public with their electioneering and talking more trash about our city, that is not helping the matter at all. It's really doing a disservice to what our hope of progress for our community is, at least in my eyes. And I'd like to see that change. So, a positive community image, and try to get people to upkeep and maintain their buildings.
Thank you. How would you address the growing issue of infrastructure, repair, street and tree trimming? Vivian, you'll start, please.
Well, I mean, you can't really sugarcoat it. If you don't have money, how are you going to buy a house? How are you going to pay for a car? I mean, we might all want a Silver Shadow Rolls Royce, but we can only afford a V-dub. I don't know. It's like, it's kind of that philosophy. Yes, we would like local police and fire. I'm pro-local police and fire. I like the response time, that I get when I call Montebello PD. or the fire department when we smell methane gas. You know, I personally like that. You know, it's important, it's critical that we do attract new business, we clean up our city, and we look at creative ways of partnerships with big businesses. I think that we turn a lot of people off in our city. I think that there's a general apathy there. There's a lot of workers that have been there 20, 30 years and they've grown complacent. I think we need to pick up the morale. I think we need positivity in this community. You know, I feel like it's been beat down, and I'd like to try to change that somehow. And I think we need more town hall meetings to get ideas, new ideas, fresh ideas from people, from even the young leaders, you know, in our community, the kids in our community.
One of the main reasons why I ran back in 2009 was because I was so tired of seeing the condition of our city deteriorating, seeing of the streets and the trees. 4 years later, as we sit here now speaking to you, we still have a lot of work to do. However, it's been 4 years of just sitting there and doing nothing, absolutely not. The city of Montebello, we have done a lot to help fix our streets and maintain and trim some of our trees in the emergency basis. Just last night at last night's council meeting, we approved over $500,000 to improve streets that needed very major repairs. And I just have some numbers here that I just pulled, and this is public record. Anybody can go to the city's website or request it at City Hall. You know, for this fiscal year alone, the city of Montebello has allocated $4.6 million for street repairs. That's for fiscal year 12 for this year through 2014. For trees, to trim trees, we have allocated $152,000 to maintain the trees. Now, I'm not happy with just maintaining. I want to also improve their city all the way across the board. But like it was mentioned earlier, without money, different ways of looking at getting money, then obviously it's going to be tough to do those repairs and try and do everything at the same time. However, like I mentioned, in the past 4 years, we have definitely made significant improvements. Just look down the street here on Washington Boulevard, all the way from Vail, all the way up to Greenwood. 2 years ago, we had the whole street repaved. There was portions of Garfield that got repaved, and also several residential streets that got repaved. And then just recently, we just allocated, like I said, more money. And I believe, if anybody remembers, you can correct me on this, but I believe it was right around the period of $600,000 to put back into the tree division so we can go ahead and continue to trim trees. One of the main reasons why we are able to do some of these things is because we have to think outside of the box. We have been mentioning here at this forum how the redevelopment took our money. We have a recession. We have a bad economy. Well, yeah, but we have thought outside of the box. We started looking into grants. A lot of those grants were able to give us a new fire truck. We actually bought a new fire truck last year for $500,000. That was just what that we got through a grant. Another safer grant that we got also last December, the city of Montebello finally hired 6 firemen that brings the fire department to capacity. And also we got that from the safer grant, which was $855,000. So in trying to improve the city, yeah, we are trying to definitely look at every avenue and every venue to try and get funds to improve our city. But that alone cannot do it. And again, we touch back as to how important economic development is, and also to try and bring in and attract new businesses.
You know, as we consider priorities in the amount of money we have to work with, our budget, public safety has always been the city council's top priority. I've always said if you can't feel safe in your home, the streets of your neighborhood, and if you do have an issue, and you should be able to get a prompt and professional response. If you don't have that, nothing else really matters much. As the budget shrank because of the longest recession in the history of the world, not just the United States or California, many cities are faced with the same problem we have. You have to make choices. We chose to maintain the level of police and fire service we had and to enhance it. We are one of the few cities that have laid off firefighters and police officers. Several surrounding cities have closed fire stations, had to make major cuts in public safety. We did not do that in Montebello. In fact, Mr. Brown stated we are hiring firefighters, we're hiring police officers. but something has to give, and unfortunately infrastructure was one of the areas where we got way behind, not only on maintenance, but on the repairs. However, as the budget has improved, we are allocating substantially more money. We are in a fiscal year. We operate from July 1st to June 30th. This budget year, 2013, 2014, we have allocated actually over $5 million for street repairs, and our city administrator is looking at another source of funding that may add close to another $1 million to that. In order to get a handle on and set priorities, that Mr. Janinen suggested last year, we formed an ad hoc committee, street committee. Mr. Janinen chairs it, I'm the second member. We sat down with our engineers, with our street department, and we set priorities for the streets that we had adequate funding to take care of this year. There are 22 streets on that list. The 6 of them are already in design and will be start construction shortly, including Washington Boulevard in the front here from Greenwood to the east city limits, Garfield Avenue, some other major streets in the city, as well as a number of major neighborhood streets. That program is in place. It will begin, as last night we approved emergency funding for 2 streets that are badly near repair, and that will be completed within 4 to 6 weeks. So we are gaining ground on that, and if, hopefully, as this economy continues to improve, we'll be able to allocate even more money next year and start to reduce the backlog. Tree trimming has been another area that's been difficult. Several years ago, we probably the top complaint we got from residents was graffiti. Because of a very competent company that we brought in and has done a good job of reducing that by over 60%, now tree trimming seems to be the major concern that residents expressed to us. In order to address that issue, we have allocated substantially more money this year to tree trimming. We have a private contractor that is coming in and taking care of the heavier tree trimming. We have a city crew. Unfortunately, the equipment we had was outdated and was red tagged by air quality management. We have purchased new tree trimming equipment, which will be in the next few months. Then we will have our city street crews getting back to trimming it again. We are getting caught up on that backlog. It's a long way to go. It depends on how viable the economy is, how much revenues continue to improve. But those are top priorities. But I still will say we will look to public safety as number 1, infrastructure, and then other services, because somewhere when you have limited dollars, you have to set priorities. But we are gaining, and we will have a handle in the next few years on both street repair, getting it back up to proper maintenance, and to tree trimming to make sure that and that also includes, of course, pothole and sidewalk repairs. We are also allocating more funds this year than we've been able to do in the past. So plan in place. We're looking at putting a more efficient plan by cutting the city up into the quadrants and concentrating on making sure that each city is, area of the city is treated fairly, and the priority is given to the streets and the trees that need trimming, both as in terms of their condition and also public safety hazards. So things are looking a lot better. We have a lot of work to do, but I'm confident that in the next few years you're going to see things improve greatly.
Thank you.
The streets got this way over a long period of time. They were neglected. The trees, the broken sidewalks. It happened through the years. It didn't just happen like yesterday. And so it takes a long time to go back and do what was broken for the last 20, 25 years. Most of the streets in the city need some kind of repair. The sidewalks. And as Mr. Molinari says, there's no money. So, you know, I'm not a saint or a miracle maker to produce money. So we need ideas. And only if the citizens of the city get together and come up with ideas to help the city find a solution. The citizens have to contribute. And most of the time when they are asked to contribute, it's always with money. So in order for us to fix the infrastructure, we have to go to the citizens, give it our story, and try to get money from them to help us get started and fix most of the streets. The ones that really are terrible, according to the pictures we saw yesterday. The city cannot be run just by the city council. I don't see it It's a two-way street, and the council is supposed to inform the citizens. The citizens are to put in some input and ideas and how to solve the problems. The city council cannot just come along and solve all your problems. That's not the way it works. In a democracy, we the people, all together, the city council and the people, the residents, have to come up with ideas, especially the youth, because they work in other cities, and they probably hear how other cities are managing to get out of the hole. So we have to depend on the youth and their ideas, because it's their future. We cannot look back, we cannot keep on looking back at the past. We want to move from now forward, not what happened yesterday or the day before. It's from now on. This is our problems, and we have to solve them, all of us together, not just the city council.